Let's go to Ashley Burke in Ottawa for more details on this. And Ashley, an extraordinary move that the Prime Minister says is necessary.
Ian, the government says that there has been harassment, intimidation, and expressions of hate, and that at times the streets behind me have seemed lawless. So today, the Prime Minister took historic action to try and clear these streets once and for all. With the capital's downtown paralyzed for the 18th day straight, the threat of violence in Alberta, and the tenuous situation at the country's busiest border crossing, Justin Trudeau made his move.
There are serious challenges to law enforcement's ability to effectively enforce the law.
The Prime Minister invoking the Emergencies Act for the first time in history. It gives the federal government immediate sweeping powers to intervene.
Today, in these circumstances, it is now clear that responsible leadership requires us to do this.
It comes amid frustration over the lack of action by Ottawa police as politicians at all three levels squabbled.
The measures that we put forward today will give the tools to law enforcement to be able to move in even stronger and clearer ways against these illegal protests.
The government says the measures will be temporary and designated to critical areas. But the Conservatives say this isn't the solution and could inflame protesters.
We want this to end quickly and peacefully, but in a way that Canadians feel that they have been listened to and that their Prime Minister respects them.
These measures take effect immediately, but need to pass in Parliament within a week. The Liberals have support to do that from the NDP.
When our capital city is under siege and has been under siege for weeks, this is an emergency.
5 premiers have said publicly they don't want the overreaching powers of the Emergency Act and don't need it in their provinces.
We would very much prefer that it not be applied to Alberta. It's not needed. It could make the situation even more complicated.
But the Premier of Ontario, most impacted by the blockades and protests, says he'll take the help.
I'll support the federal government in any proposals they have to bring law and order back to our province.
One important thing that the Prime Minister also said, Ian, is that the Emergencies Act will not be used to call in the military.
So no military, at least not for now, but there are some new powers to cut off the funding of these protests.
That's right, Ian. The Finance Minister said that they are going to crack down to try and target the enormous amounts of money that is helping fund these demonstrations and keep them going. Now, that includes updating Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorism financing laws to include cryptocurrency and also crowdfunding sites. As well, banks will now have the power to seize accounts that they suspect might be helping fund these blockades.
All right, Ashley, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton now. And Rosie, why did the government act today?
Ian, you know, the federal government was encouraged when the province of Ontario invoked its emergency order last week. It was encouraged when it saw police in Windsor clear the bridge, that vital trade corridor. But there was a realization over the past 72 hours or so that much more was needed because of the economy, because of the paralysis, certainly in the nation's capital, and because of the pressure building very directly on the federal government. There was not agreement in cabinet from the get-go. There was a lot of caution expressed, given this has never been used, but ultimately it was decided this is what was needed, provided it could be tightly limited in scope.
And let's talk about the political risk.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk here. Essentially today, Justin Trudeau took responsibility for this, for solving it. The onus is now on him and his government. So if it works, if convoys are removed, if it happens peacefully, the federal government can take credit. If it doesn't end or doesn't end well, he'll have to wear that too. The criticism for this government's inaction or limited action has grown, certainly over the weeks. Now they've taken the ultimate action. But the outcome of this, Ian, is still very much in the hands of law enforcement. And so Trudeau is out on a limb here politically with little support from provinces or other leaders.
All right, Rosemary, thank you.